So, speaking of people listening to the words that we're saying on a regular basis, the Titans are back in the building. And on April the 8th, that sounds like a nightmare. Ben, how many times did you have a new – was it just Vrabel for you where you had a new coach and had to, like, report super early like this?
It started out for my career was every 2 years. So when I was in Houston, it was Kubiak for 2, then O'Brien for 2. Then I got here, it was Malarkey for 2, then Vrabel. So Vrabel was my longest stint with not having a new coach. But it was like OC new every other year. Yeah. So that was always something.
Well, when you're a vet on a team like that, and as you said, you did this at every phase of your career. So I guess how much did that experience change for you, given where you were at varying points in your career, the teammates that you knew you were going to have around you, your quarterback situation in particular, because obviously that's something that a lot of Titans fans are paying attention to right now. What is kind of the process for you as a vet, welcoming in so many new different parts and pieces, as well as a new coaching staff?
Later in my career, it was about building relationships, getting the guys like, hey, they knew I knew the offense. I made the calls for them. I was meeting early and later with them to get them comfortable with the system. Then it was a time of, hey, I got to build this relationship so this guy trusts me on the field. Like in the net, when it's down and dirty and you got to trust somebody, I wanted him to look for me every time. Like, all right, Ben's never going to steer me wrong. Like, hey, he knows what he's doing. So I was making sure, like, in the offseason, I did not have to be in there. But literally from January, I was there every single day. Like, I would come in, I'd have my cup of coffee with a different coach. I'd get a workout in there with Frank. Then I would stop by them like, hey, what are y'all putting in today? And they would tell me what they were installing. So I'd go watch it and watch cut-ups on my own because I enjoyed doing that side of football. It wasn't always just going out there and beat your head against the wall. I really enjoyed the X's and O's also.
But what about when you're new to the offense and you're coming in and a quarterback is going into a second year, which is the exact situation you had with Marcus, and that's the situation Lloyd Cushenberry has here with Will Levis. Like, what type of conversations do they need to be having during this period in the offseason program?
Yeah, I was sitting by Marcus in every meeting, so to make sure we were seeing it through the same set of eyes, like, hey, if I'm doing this, like by the time we got to camp, we were pretty comfortable together. We went to dinner a couple times a week. We golfed 3 or 4 days a week. So he trusted me on that side of it, but just having the relationship, like, hey, Ben's going to get me out of these bad plays if it's the run. Like, hey, Marcus was dialed into the pass game to protection, so I would give him that side of it. And if I saw a red flag, you'd see me just reach back there and wave my hand. He'd be like, what do you see? So he'd come up there and change it. But that's how I knew what I wanted to take off of his plate so he could really – because he was young. Like, he really needed to focus on the concepts of the passers, getting the receivers in the right spot. So I kind of took care of everything else for him.
Did you see the picture of his Zoom introduction in Washington?
No.
Ben, he looks so old. He
was gray when he was here.
I know. He was starting to get the grays.
Y'all stressed him out. That's y'all's fault. Leave him alone. Such a good human.
That's not my fault.
That is y'all's fault.
You did this.
Y'all did this to Marcus.
In 19, it really felt like he was going gray very, very fast, for sure. And I don't mean to make light of that because obviously that was a tough situation for him and a particularly difficult point for you guys to kind of work through collectively as a team. But he is almost entirely gray now. He has aged almost as fast as Vrabel did as a coach. Like, Mike looks so much older than when he the last time I saw him, not the TMZ shots of him gambling in Vegas, but the last time I saw him at the Combine, from some early pictures of him getting hired in 19 or 18, it looks like two totally different people. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's a big stress coming with a quarterback. You're the leader. Everybody's looking at you. A lot of times, I can walk around this town, not a soul knows who I am, which is great. Like, everybody knew who he was, so he had to keep a certain image at all time. He was always in go mode, and yes, he wasn't having some years it was not as good. He was hurt. He was doing this. So the extra stress, the extra time, like, because he was trying to get that next contract. He would have done anything, but his body wasn't holding up. It was just not working for him, and that's just a lot of stress that you're trying to provide for your family. But unreal guy.
No, and without question, there was never any dispute about the kind of person that Marcus was. And unfortunate for him that his career didn't pan out quite the way here that he wanted it to, though he continues to have an NFL career. Yep. I think it's a good point that you make, Ben, about like your process working with him in particular, and just kind of what it speaks to about different personality types that you're going to deal with at the quarterback position, and not just at the quarterback, because like we've talked about this before, Derrick Henry is you got to earn that trust for sure. And there are a lot of dudes like that. You don't know all the different backgrounds that these guys come with, and that's a really football locker rooms just for by volume for how many different people are in the locker room at one given time. They all have to be collectively working towards the same goal, though they may think completely different about everything in life from one another. It's one of the more unique kind of, all right, everybody put everything aside as we work towards this common goal.
Yeah.
How did you kind of, I mean, that's probably something that's innate to your personality, but how did you kind of feel that out for yourself? Because that's not something that just comes easily to everybody, and I feel like that's pretty essential for a center to be able to do.
Right. So my thing was I tried to eat breakfast and lunch with different people every day. I didn't just have my little clique that I always walked in the same time, ate breakfast. I would take time. My wife would be like, what are you doing up there all day? At the offseason, I was like, hey, I'm going to grab lunch with this guy today. Hey, I'm bringing this guy to, hey, you want to lift today so I can sit down to learn a little bit more about his family. So I was literally trying to, when anything would go wrong, like guy had car trouble, guy needed to find a house or apartment or anything, they would like, hey, I need to find a house, or hey, I have family coming to town. Can you send me restaurant? I would have a whole book that I would be like, hey, send this to your family. Hey, this is a good spot for them to stay.
You were Nashville Guru before Nashville Guru.
No doubt. Like people with like Chick, our player personnel, he'd be like, just go ask Ben. Like he knows the real estate market. He knows the places to eat. He knows where you need to put your family. So I'd kind of get me in the front door with a lot of people, but because you want guys on that team to trust you and come to you. And I would sit down and have financial talks with guys in the hot tub in the morning because they knew I was always there, and I was always like rookie symposium, rookie meeting. I would come in, I'm like, all right, this is how I do my schedule. This is how I do my finances, to kind of open up the book so they could come and feel comfortable talking to me.
So now that is the task that Lloyd Cushenberry is going to have to undertake, and I know you know him a little bit. What kind of player are the Titans getting in Lloyd?
I remember last year when Vrabel and Stretch was like, hey, can you look at some of these players for me? We're going to evaluate some centers. And they sent me like 10 guys to watch. And I said, I don't even have to watch these guys. I know who the best one is in this market. He was like, who? I was like, it's one guy. It's night and day better than the other guys they sent me to. I was like, it's Cushenberry. And they were like, that easy? I'm like, yes, I can watch. I'll watch them all for you. But when I was breaking down tape through my time, he was always a guy. I'm like, hey, I'm going to watch him this week. Because I know he's a strong guy. He's tough. He was going to be out there. And he was a guy like, I was like, all right, I have that. So I'd always, if we played him, I'd go there and say hey to him. But certain guys correlate better. So like some games, I would not watch a guy. I'm not watching him. He's going to give me, I'm going to sit there and think I can't block a guy all week because this center for this team couldn't touch him. So I'm like, I want to have good vibes going into the game. I want to know this guy is blockable that I'm playing. So I'm like, all right, I knew he was a guy I could always turn on. I'm like, hey, he's going to go out there and block the guy.
So you mentioned Stretch there, John Stryker, who was so much more than Vrabel's right-hand guy. I know he had a more specific title than that. But he's now with the Los Angeles Rams, and I wonder what you can tight because, understandably, Mike keeps a lot of things close to the vest.
Yep.
And I'm not asking you to divulge any state secrets here, but I don't think there's a way for me to properly articulate how important Stretch was to the operation of everything for you guys. What is he going to bring to Sean McVay and the Rams?
I would say the biggest thing, he watches every single game, every single week. So any clip that shows up in a game, like you can talk through the scenario. Like say, hey, this is what they're calling on pass interference. So he'll have every pass interference clip pulled up. Hey, this is the call they're calling on defense this week. Hey, this is illegal touching. So he'll show every reference for you. So we'd have a Friday meeting with Vrabel, and he would go over, hey, these are hot topics in the league. This is what's getting called in the game. This is what guys are getting away with. If we're not just going to be a good team, we're going to be a great team. We're going to follow the rules and take advantage of the rules. So he would have a whole tape every week of that, and literally Stretch would do all of the tape and send it to Vrabel. He'd be like, Vrabel didn't get through half of it today. So I'd go in there and sit there because every time you walk in there, he'd be clipping on clips. I'm like, what are you watching, Stretch? He's like, because then I'd get to watching clips. I'm like, hey, that's a good Friday clip. Yeah. It was a Thursday night game. We were eating O-line dinner, and we'd all text him like, hey, that better be on there tomorrow. So he does so much for that. And he made us better as a team because we learned the whole game of football, not just how to be an offensive lineman.
What do you make of what they could look like now? This is as big a philosophical shift as I think they've experienced. There have been a lot of generations of this particular franchise going back to the Oilers, but in 25 years of them being the Tennessee Titans, I don't know that there's going to be a bigger change from what one team has looked like to what one team the next year expects to look like. And I wonder what you make of the personnel decisions that they've chosen through the free agencies thus far.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when I came in, they brought in me, they drafted Jack Conklin, they drafted Derek, they brought in DeMarco. It was kind of a culture switch. They were trying to switch it, and that's what they're kind of doing here. They're bringing in a Cushenberry. They wanted a solid center right there. They went and got a receiver in the market. They went and got 2 corners in the market who are elite. So you can see it happen, and what their brand is, hey, they're going to have some guys who can throw the deep ball to. Now their focus is, hey, we got to make sure we can protect our quarterback, because when you're in this point in the year and you have the money, this is your chance to win. Win now because you're not paying a quarterback. Quarterback takes up so much space in your cap. This is your time to go get some talent and try to win it and get weapons around him and protect him.
They gave press conferences yesterday. They were asked a lot of questions, and one topic in particular that came up is Treylon Burks.
Yep.
It's so hard for any rookie coming into the NFL, Ben, and it's especially hard when your body is the thing that keeps letting you down, because that's been the bulk of the issue with Treylon. He just cannot, for the life of him, stay available, unfortunately. How do you view him at this point? Because he's heading into year 3. This stuff goes really fast, and they're going to have to make a pretty critical decision on him in the very, very near future.
Yeah, it's similar to Corey Davis. Like, he had some injury issues early on. He'd have a couple big games, but they didn't pick up his option, and he had that huge year. And they're like, man, we probably wish we'd had that 5th year.
I remember
option.
Corey being pissed about them not picking up the option.
And that's the thing. Very, very similar. Quiet, reserved guys who good teammates, but he's got the injury bug, and that happens. And I want him to do well. He's such a good kid, and I think his thing is just being able to stay on the field. If you're on the field, you get more targets. More targets you get more opportunities, and it comes with a confidence. So if he's out there, stays healthy for a year, I think he's a good player.
That has to be such a hard thing to come to terms with, though. Like, that idea of it's just, this is what this sport is going to do to you sometimes. Because, the quarterback hit rate, we're getting ready to have the draft here in 2 weeks from today, as a matter of fact. And, like, the quarterback hit rate for the position that we should all know the most about, the position that we spend the most damn time talking about, watching, emphasizing everything about, it's about a 40% hit rate coming out of the draft. And that's at, like, the very top of these guys. For football players, it has to be just such a compartmentalization of accepting that to an extent, because that, I don't know, it would just be hard for me to get my head around the idea of this sport is going to do this to you more often than not, and how you figure out how to overcome it, if you're able to overcome it. This is just the percentage chance you have to make it or not. Yeah,
it's hard. Especially when you come in, you're replacing an A.J. Brown, all the pressure's on you, trying to have that. So I'm hoping having Hop, having Ridley here, takes a little pressure off of him, takes a couple reps off of him, and he's able to flourish. Like, it's not easy. This league is not easy, especially when you can't get in a rhythm because you're hurt. Then that's always in the back of your head, like, hey, I got to be out there. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I can't get hurt again. That's part of the mental game. So I understand that, and I hope it takes off for him, because I think he has the talent in his bones.
There's no question. Ben Jones hanging out here with us in studio. Are you job hunting right now? What's your deal?
Just, you know what I am. 3 days a week, I'm over there working out at Fit Lab with Josh and the other linemen that are in the league. So I was in there with Stinny, Shaq Mason, Brewer, School.
Where'd Stinny just sign?
Giants.
That's right.
So he's back up there with half of the Titans coaches, I feel like. So he's back with them. So, but yeah, that's what they give me a hard time, because I'm like 10 years older than those other guys, and I'm in there working out with them. They're like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, for me, it's the mental thing that I can do it, and it's competitive. I like that side of the football. I want to be competitive, and I can't be competitive in golf with Suckup and Kern. So this is my way to go in there and I can compete and actually win in something.
It's disgusting how good they both are at golf.
Oh, it's unreal.
Georgia spring game happening this Saturday. Are you going? And what's been the conversation in Athens throughout spring this week? Tennessee, it's obviously been about Nico, and it's his team now, and a lot happening around him, but I'm curious what that discussion is in Georgia.
The Dogs are going to be good. What do you think? We got our quarterback back, pretty much our whole line.
You can't ask him a question that expects serious analysis about the Georgia Bulldogs. He's just going to go on glowing about them.
What's not to like? Like, you got literally the top pick in the draft, they're saying right now, Carson Beck, who was our question mark last year. So you give him a whole year of confidence. You still got weapons. Yes, we lost probably the best player in the draft, Brock Bowers, but hey, we're Georgia. We're going to whoop Tennessee. I'm sorry, Tennessee fans. We're going to whoop y'all again. That's how it is.
Who do you consider, now with Nick Saban out of the picture, the biggest threat to Georgia at this point in the SEC, where if it's not for Saban, I'd be willing to bet you guys have 4 or 5 national titles under Kirby by now instead of the 2. Who now becomes that threat? Is it Sark and Texas coming into the league? Like, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, you're going down there. You're seeing the program they have, and now NIL is coming in a big factor. What school can actually pay these players and keep them there? Like, Georgia has a great NIL. Ole Miss has definitely got one. Ohio State's got some money. So which program's sustainable? Which coach is not going to leave that's young enough? And so I'm saying this year we have to go 2 Texas, 2 Ole Miss, and 2 Alabama. So I'm saying we just got to win 2 of them. But I would say Texas scares me the most, honestly.
I think that's the right answer. Don't you agree? We talk a lot about Tennessee and the upward trajectory, and we'll see how things look under Nico. But Texas is ready to go right now. With
Another
the more
number one
quarterback.
Another number 1 pick candidate over there in Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, gut feeling Masters pick, go. You
Gut
just said it was
feeling?
all about the gut feeling.
Scotty.
Yeah.
If it's not Scotty, you got to go Koepka. Gotta go.
Just because he doesn't give a damn out there.
No doubt. Like, that's half of it. It's mental. Like, golf, standing over a putt and having that crowd, he doesn't care.
Machine.
And that's what I love. Like, yes, he is a prick. Yes, he says some stuff, but he wins.
Yeah.
You want a winner. I'm like, when you're doing a pool and you don't put him in it, you're like, should have done it. Should have picked him.
What are you going to shoot tomorrow?
25 miles per hour winds. I'm out there for a good time. Me and Castle going to go out there in the morning. QB Center Exchange. We're going to
Matt Castle. I haven't
eat some
seen
breakfast.
Matt Castle in so long.
Eat some breakfast and try to not lose all our balls. That's our round, and get some steps in and get a lot of jokes in. And I feel for whoever plays with us tomorrow.
Ben, it's always good to see you, buddy. Too long between visits. We'll have to bother you again sometime soon. Thanks for doing it.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys.
That's Ben Jones hanging out with us. Some Vols transfer portal news coming up next.